The moon's in the sky and it looks so pretty. Kid you not, the sky is literally the colour of my top and my cardigan's the colour of the moon. I literally feel so in touch with nature right now. Hi guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I'm Katie and in today's video we're going to be reading for 24 hours. These have definitely been my favourite videos to film over the years, but this is the first one that we're doing in 2025 because the last one I did was for Bookmas. Actually, I did two for Bookmas. I did reading Christmas or like winter thrillers and reading holiday romances, which was so much fun. Anyway, we're going to go back to my roots and just do your average 24-hour readathon, no theme. So I'm not going to be starting or stopping the timer at all. We're going to go for a straight 24 hours. It is just coming up to 1:15 in the afternoon today, so we're going to be reading from probably around 20 past or 1:30 to the same time tomorrow. So I'm going to stay up as late as I can and get up as early as I can tomorrow morning. I have not completed any of the books on my March TBR just yet. It is still the first week of March, but I kind of want to get ahead of the game, like on top of my reading, especially because I haven't finished any of my TBRs like fully in January or February, so I kind of want that to be my goal for March, to actually finish my TBR. Is that possible? I'm not sure, but we're gonna make a good start today. So I do have a couple of shorter books on my TBR for March, so I'm kind of gonna start with those and see how it goes. So the first book that I really want to read, I'm so excited for it, and I've had on my shelf for like a year now, but haven't been like this excited as I am now to pick this up, is How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. I literally got this ahead of publication and never read it, so I popped it on my March TBR to see if I could get to it this month, and I am really intrigued by this book because it's kind of like a thriller set at a library, which is such a fun setting. But yeah, the reason I wanted to read it today, other than the fact that I'm actually really drawn to it at the moment, is that it's only 219 pages, and also because it's a thriller, I feel like I could get through it really quickly. I don't talk about thrillers enough. The thriller genre is definitely like top tier genre for me, and I love reading them in these 24-hour reading challenges. So yeah, I think I'm going to start with this one, but I also do have Six Scorched Roses by Chris Broadbent downloaded on my Kindle, and that is a little novella in the House of Nyaxia series. It's between The Serpent and the Wings of Night and what is it called, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, I think that's what it's called. So it's between those two books, and I'm still unsure whether I should read that one or go on to like the second full novel, but the author herself recommends that you read it in this order. So yeah, I'm gonna pop that on the TBR, but I think I'm gonna save it for later tonight because it is kind of like a dark fantasy series, and I think I'll enjoy it so much more if I read it in the hours of darkness. I also do really want to download an audiobook. I don't know what it's gonna be yet, but I am gonna have a look at my March TBR and see if any of the books on there would be books I'd like to also listen to on audiobook. So we'll decide on one that we're gonna read during this readathon and let you guys know what one I pick. But yeah, for now I think I'm just gonna get started with this book and like not complicate things too much with like an entire TBR. I have got my mug of tea here. I've got, I think it's strawberry and cucumber. It's a little bit random, but it is so nice, and I didn't want like too much caffeine, which now I'm thinking of it sounds like really counterintuitive. But yeah, I'm gonna save having proper caffeinated drinks till a bit later when I'm getting a little bit tired. And I've also got a little bowl of snacks here. I've got a jam donut and some red grapes. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna hop into bed for the start of this readathon and see how far I can get into this book. Guys, we are 2 hours into the readathon, so here's where the timer is currently at, and I'm 81 pages into How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. This is definitely not what I expected this book to be, so I thought it would be a little bit more of like a standard thriller, but I feel like it's more on the literary side. At the beginning we're following this woman called Margot. Margot's not even her actual name, she's actually called Jane, and we figure out quite quickly that she used to work at a hospital or a series of hospitals until she got this job as kind of like somewhat of a librarian. She's been there for 2 years, but a lot of her like inner monologue is about her work as a nurse previously, and it's pretty obvious that some really shady stuff happened because of her at these hospitals. So it's kind of like almost like two settings. This library setting and the hospital setting, and both are like really sterile, but it does have a little bit of humour to it. It reminds me the tiniest bit of a Tessa Moshfegh's writing, that kind of everyday, really honest writing, even though it might be a little bit bleak, and with like really interesting characters as well. But it also reminds me of a show that I was watching recently called Apple Cider Vinegar. That show is actually based on a true story about this woman who faked cancer. I feel like that show and this book are similar in that the main character's living this kind of false life and like false identity, and you're kind of just like waiting for them to get caught, but it's also got some humour to it, and both of those characters are really intriguing. But this book is also dual perspective, so we've also got Patricia, who starts in the library 2 years after Margot does, and these two women are really drawn to each other, and it's really interestingly written because we get a lot from Margot's point of view at first, and then when it switches over to Patricia we kind of see things that we've read already happen from her point of view, which is super interesting. But yeah, like I said, not really like a normal thriller that you would expect, so I actually don't know how to feel about this. It's a bit of a slower read than I was expecting as well, hence why I'm only 81 pages in, but I have reached part 2, which feels like I've gotten somewhere, and I feel like we're on track to finish this evening. But right now I actually wanted to pause it for a bit and hopefully start an audiobook, so I've got my laptop here. I'm gonna have a look and see what I might want to read. Obviously it would be ideal to pick something from my March TBR, but I'm not gonna hold myself to that. One of my initial thoughts was to start Chain of Gold on audiobook, but I've also got Nightbane by Alex Aster. Quicksilver was one that I started in the gym the other day on my Kindle, so I could always get the audiobook for that and read it that way. Nightbane would probably be best because it's the shortest, but I have a feeling I actually would prefer to take my time with that one. So yeah, I'm gonna have a look on Audible and see what they suggest. I'm looking at Chain of Gold on Audible and it says it's called The Last Hours. Is this The Last Hours as in like the whole trilogy, or is it just the first book? In the description it does say the first in a brand new Shadowhunters trilogy set in Edwardian London. Oh, I'm really in the mood for like historical fantasy. The only thing I would say is that it is 21 hours and 20 minutes if I was to listen to it on 1x speed, which I'm not, but at the same time I'm still not going to get through that much in a readathon. I think I will still add it to my basket because I'm obviously going to read it this month anyway, and I would love to have the audiobook for it. Okay, one that's come up that I have always been really intrigued to read. It's super popular. It is a kind of fantasy romance, I think, and that is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I know that it's the first book in a trilogy and it's only 10 hours and 3 minutes if I was to listen to it on 1x speed, which is pretty good. So yeah, I'm kind of deciding between Once Upon a Broken Heart and Chain of Gold. I think I'm just gonna get both because why not? One of them's on offer as well. So I'm gonna add both to my basket, and what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna have a little break from How Can I Help You. I need to hang up some washing that's been in the washing machine, and also potentially deep clean my bathroom because I really want to do that, and that way I can like really get into one of these audiobooks. Confirm order. Hello guys, it is quite a bit later and I'm nearly finished with my first book. So it's now just after 9:15. I'm very sorry for the lack of updates, but I've got over 16 hours of the readathon left and I'm nearly finished with my first book, which took me a lot longer than I thought. I think I've only got 40 or 50 pages left of How Can I Help You? But yeah, I did take a little break in this to pick up Chain of Gold, which I will talk about in just a second. It's essentially this cat and mouse game between Margot and Patricia, or how does she say it? Patricia. Anyway, you're not really sure who has the upper hand in their dynamic, which is quite fun. I feel like it's making it quite suspenseful, so at least there's that that's keeping me reading. Every time it kind of changes perspective and we get caught up on Patricia's point of view of what's just happened with Margot. I'm really enjoying the overlap there. It's not as boring as it could be to read the same thing twice. And there was this really funny moment, without giving too much away. Patricia's eyeing up this book at the library and Margot sees her, and then she takes out out the book and reads it, there was a really funny moment that reminded me a lot of the Silver Linings Playbook. I think that's Bradley Cooper. He basically reads a book and chucks it out the window, and it is so funny. It's like become a meme. Basically a similar thing happened with Margot and that book. It was definitely my favourite moment in the book so far. But yeah, having said all that, I don't really feel particularly connected to this book. It's not really falling flat as such, but it's just not as gripping me as like similar books. Like I mentioned Tessa Moshfegh, I feel like Eileen is a good comparison. Carla Henkel's books, Other People's Clothes, or Scrap, I feel like those are really great comparisons to this book, and like they all fall in the same ballpark. But something about this book, like I'm just not connecting with it, and I don't know whether it's the whole nursing thing and like that side of the story. It's very much creeping me out, and like it's got a lot of shock factor, but I just feel like I'm not really connecting to either of the characters because I don't really understand their motivations just yet. I'm hoping we get a little bit more of that before the end. I hope it's not like too ambiguous. I'm going to continue to read this for a little bit in bed now. I am going to try and stay up till around midnight probably and just wake up really early because I just know I'm going to get really tired and get fidgety leg. Once the lights are out, I'm going to move on to my Kindle or my audiobook depending on how I feel. So I mentioned that I picked up Chain of Gold, which I'm so excited by. I kind of want to just drop How Can I Help You and go straight onto this, but I'm not going to because I really want to finish that book. Anyway, I'm 76 pages into this already. I've kind of been listening to the audiobook and reading a little bit here and there, and yeah, I'm finding it really easy to follow. At first I did start listening to my other choice. I can't even remember what that was now. I started this one by Stephanie Garber, but as soon as I started listening to it, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to follow it. I think just returning to a familiar author's writing was the way to go, and even though I know I'm not going to finish this in the readathon, I'm just so excited by this book that I had to choose this one. It's just really fun. It's set in Edwardian England, and it's about Cordelia Carstairs and James and Lucy Herondale. So it's the Carstairs and the Herondales, and if you've read The Infernal Devices, you will know who I'm talking about. They've mentioned Oscar Wilde so many times, and it's making me feel like Cassandra Clare took major inspiration from especially The Importance of Being Earnest and one more, which the name of I'll put on screen. I think one of them at least has mistaken identity as part of the plot. Basically a big misunderstanding trope happens right at the beginning of this book, and even though it's kind of sad and heartbreaking, it was just really fun to see like how it kind of like played out, and I'm just excited to see how it continues playing out, to be honest. I feel like what Cassandra Clare does really well is character dynamics and like relationships. She does it in this big fantasy world, but that's also rooted in our world. It's just so much of what I love in a book, so I'm so excited that I'm starting this. Good morning guys, it is now 8:12 in the morning. I was up till like 1 AM and woke up at about 6:45, so I am feeling a little bit tired. I'm desperate for a coffee when I get back, but I'm just about to go for my morning walk. I've been doing this for a few days now, where I wake up, have a cup of tea, and then go straight on a walk and then get back and have breakfast. So yeah, we're gonna do that today. We're not gonna skip a day just because we're doing some reading. I will update you guys with like more of my reading progress when I get back, but I have started 6 Scorched Roses this morning and I'm a quarter of the way through that. I'm also a quarter of the way through Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, which means I'm on page 150. But I also finished How Can I Help You by Laura Sims, which I will give you guys like my final rating and review of when I get back. So yeah, been really productive last night since I spoke to you. I'm gonna take my earphones now and listen to Chain of Gold while I'm walking and have that coffee that I really need. Hello everyone, it is a little bit later now. It is 9:45, so we've got 3 hours and 43 minutes to go. I've just got to page 182 of Chain of Gold, and I think I'm gonna leave this here. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to read my next book, so we will see. It might be that that's all I read of this one in this video. I'm really enjoying it and I'm so glad that I've got this far into it already. But anyway, I thought I would talk to you guys about How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. I feel like I'm gonna give this 3 stars. It was definitely enjoyable, and I think the length of the novel really helped that. The ending wasn't as wrapped up as I would have liked, but at the same time I don't know whether I would have wanted any more. I feel like I was pretty done with this book by the time I finished it. It definitely had a lot more to it than I thought though. There was like a lot of plot. It wasn't just solely character driven, which it definitely felt like it could have been at the beginning. I was quite surprised as to where it led. Maybe Eileen is the best comparison, especially because of the structure of it and what ends up happening towards the end. It did also remind me a lot of Yellowface as well, because it is a thriller set in the literary world, which obviously for us book lovers is a really fun thing. But at the same time, I just feel like it was a bit of wasted potential. The whole library setting, I was so excited by that, and that's what made me want to read this book. And obviously we do spend a lot of time with them in the library, but it's a little bit more mundane than you'd think. I thought it might be a bit more like action packed and a bit more thrilling, and I really wanted to be kind of scared and like on edge, and I think it wanted to capture that feeling of paranoia, but it didn't quite get there. So yeah, I think it's like a solid 3 stars. I definitely would have DNF'd this if I wasn't enjoying it, but yeah, I just feel like it could have been amped up or expanded upon like just a little bit. Like I feel like it wasn't truly satisfying enough. It was good, but I didn't love it. So yeah, I think I finished that actually around 10:30 last night, so not too bad. This morning I feel like I've had better luck because I have started reading 6 Scorched Roses on my Kindle, and I feel like this could be 5 stars. I'm only 24% of the way in, which is page 46, and I'm already getting those 5-star fills, which is the first time that that's happened this year. I didn't even feel this way with The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and I really enjoyed that and gave that 4.5 stars. But something about this, maybe because it's a novella, it kind of just launched into it straight away. But we've got our main character Lilith, and she's had 3 brushes with death. When she was born, she nearly died, and then when her sister was born, her mother died, and then later on in her life, while she was still a child, her father cursed a god, and then in turn the god cursed the land. Basically all these people die of this weird disease where I feel like they turn to ash. I'm not really sure, like it's a little bit confusing, but I think her dad was one of the first to die. She's basically had a near-death experience, and both of her parents have died in her life, so she's very well acquainted with death, and she's basically made it her life mission to try and cure this disease. She went and studied science, and then her sister started dying, so it's really high stakes for her to try and cure this illness. So she basically comes up with the idea, because like nothing else is working, like none of the doctors or magicians or priests in the land know what to do, so she ends up going to this vampire's house in the woods and basically making a deal with this vampire to give her some of his blood to see if she can use that to cure this illness. So yeah, that was basically the introduction to the plot. But yeah, it moved really quickly, like I said, so like we got straight into it. I think she was already at his house making that deal with him in like the 1st or 2nd chapter. I am seriously obsessed with their dynamic though, and that's what's giving me the 5-star feels. Like I just feel like this is going to be one of my favorite romances ever already. Like if it is a romance, which I'm assuming it is, I already know that I'm gonna want it to be longer. It's going to take me just over 2 hours to finish this, and we only have 3.5 hours left of this readathon. So yeah, I need to crack on, so I'm going to just sit on the sofa and read as much of this as possible and give you guys updates whenever I have any thoughts. I finished. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I really need to find out what happens with these characters in the rest of the series. And literally there's an author's note at the end, and it's basically saying that these characters play a massive part in the Crowns of Nyaxia series from the 2nd book onwards, which is the next book that I'm gonna read. And I'm so excited because these are probably my favorite characters. Like I thought that The Serpent and the Wings of Night was amazing, and I was gonna be really upset if I didn't get more of those 2, but honestly I think I like these ones more. Definitely the easiest 5 stars that I've given in a while, if I'm honest. Carissa Broadbent is fast becoming a favorite author for me. The only thing is I don't want to read this series too quickly, and I know that but there's one yet to come out later this year, which is good. This is the second book that I've given 5 stars this year. The first one was The Hunger Games, and that was because that was a reread, and I was debating not giving it 5 stars because I was thinking if I read it now would I give it 5 stars. That trilogy just lives in my heart, but this is like the excitement of reading a new book and giving it 5 stars. Like, there's nothing like it. We still have an hour and 16 minutes left of the readathon, so I think I'm going to pick up where I left off in Chain of Gold and yeah, see how far I get in the next hour. I'm quite hopeful. I think I'm going to listen to the audiobook, do some journaling because I obviously need to update my journal with the last 2 books that I finished. I also know that I want to read the rest of the series, so I'm considering actually placing an order on Waterstones for, I think it's the next 2 books in the series. As long as they're paperback, I kind of want them all to be the same. I just feel like this year is the year that I really get back into fantasy and like dive back in a big way. I literally don't want to read anything else, and like anytime I pick up something else, it's just not as good and I'm not enjoying it as much.
He stopped where he walked. A nondescript stretch of road lied on both sides.
Hello guys, it is the end of the readathon now. I just ended up reading Chain of Gold right to the last second and I managed to get to page 117. I did then read up until the chapter after that, but I did read 217 pages of this during the readathon and I'm just loving it. I'm so excited. I actually placed an order for the next 2 books in the series, so they should be arriving very soon. Yeah, hopefully this is just another one of Cassandra Clare's series that I can just binge read and enjoy so much. I also did put a little cheat sheet of all the characters right at the beginning of the book. I'll cover it because it does include spoilers for who ends up with who in the Infernal Devices, but basically all of those couples and their children I've made a little cheat sheet for so that I can remember, because some of them were so confusing, like some of the cousins and stuff. But yeah, now I can refer back to my little cheat sheet and I will be keeping that for the whole series just in case. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this so much and it genuinely feels like spring in a book. You're probably going to see this in a spring recommendation video soon if I finish it by then, because it actually feels like the beginning of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I stand by what I said. I think Cassie Clare took a lot of inspiration from Oscar Wilde and from The Picture of Dorian Gray. Just some of the descriptions of the gardens and the estates and the parks and stuff like that just really remind me of Oscar Wilde. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that little nod to the literature of the time. I think Wuthering Heights was also brought up in this as well, so I just love the references. I think it's so clever and just such a nice touch. So yes, in total I ended up reading I think over 700 pages during this readathon. I obviously finished 2 kind of novella sized books and got about a third of the way through my next read, so I'm really proud of myself. I had a really great time reading all of these. Obviously I gave How Can I Help You by Laura Sims 3 stars and I gave Six Scorched Roses 5 stars, so a major success there. I think if I continue reading this will definitely be a minimum of 4 stars, so we will see. And keep an eye on my next videos and my Goodreads, my Fable, if you want to know what I ended up rating this book and my review. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave this vlog here. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end. I always appreciate you guys so much. If you did make it to the end, maybe leave a rose emoji for Six Scorched Roses, just so I know who made it this far. That is it from me. I hope you are having the best day wherever you are, and I will see you very shortly with another video.